New England Patriots dropped the season finale 17-3 to the New York Jets. Not going to talk about the game too much here, but ultimately their punter played a little bit better than our punter, and their running back, Breece Hall, really had a hell of a game, 178 yards, capped the game off with the game-winning touchdown there, with Julius Peppers just missing a big tackle, and he was able to run down the field and score a touchdown that put the game away. Really just a ground-heavy, punt-heavy ball game. Neither quarterback could do much. Trevor Siemian, just 8 of 20 for 70 yards. Bailey Zappi, 12 of 30 for 88 yards. He did have 2 interceptions on a potential game-winning drive. Turned it over. Somehow Vidarian Lowe fell on it after the Jets fumbled it, and then he threw another interception again, and that was it. Really tough to see them lose that way, especially in Bill Belichick's final game, along with Matthew Slater, maybe his final game with the Patriots as well. But ultimately will be a good thing for the Patriots going forward as they secure a top 3 pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, meaning they'll have a chance at either Caleb Williams, probably not unless they trade up, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels, if they want to draft one of those top 3 potential franchise quarterbacks, or maybe Marvin Harrison Jr., which, as I've argued, is as good of a guarantee at wide receiver as you're ever going to get in a draft. So the Patriots are going to have some options. There's going to be a lot of interesting storylines heading toward the draft, whether they want to go with a quarterback, potentially for the future. If they want to get one of those big name receivers like Marvin Harrison Jr. and then, sign a Kirk Cousins or a veteran quarterback, or get, a Michael Penix or a Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy later on. Really going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So be sure to subscribe and tune in here to Pat's Cast as the offseason continues and we see how that draft develops. But the big storyline coming out of this one is this going to be Bill Belichick's last game as head coach of the New England Patriots? Certainly something's going to change. At the very least, you would like to see a change to who selects player personnel. I know technically speaking, Bill Belichick is not the GM, but he picks the groceries for the most part, makes the final call, and he will be having a meeting with Robert Kraft on Monday, and that will likely determine the fate of his near future. I'll just say right now, and let me know how you feel. I'm certainly still open to Bill Belichick staying. This was certainly a bitter ending, and it's kind of hard to see. With everything he's done, the 6 Super Bowls, just to see it kind of fall apart this way. But really, this does fall on Bill with the personnel that they've had on offense. Obviously, they still have a very elite defense, a top 5 defense, maybe top 3. And most of that defense is going to be back heading into next season. So there's a lot to be excited about there. But really, no prioritization for the offense, especially in the 2023 draft. He's picking defensive players, didn't address the tackle position, picked a bunch of guards. Yeah, he got City So, and hopefully he'll be the right guard of the future, but they avoided the tackle position, they avoided the wide receiver position, other than Demario Douglas, which they really lucked out on in the 6th round. Obviously, he wasn't a major priority. They selected Kayshon Boutte before him. But really, if this was an even close to competent offense, this would have been perhaps a 500 team. Maybe they would have been competing for a playoff spot down the stretch. A lot of close one-score games. Pretty much every game was winnable other than the Cowboys and the Saints game. But a lot of that is how Bill coaches. He likes to keep games close. He didn't take a lot of risks. He made a lot of conservative calls, and that's why a lot of the games were closer than they actually were. But again, Bill Belichick, still a great X's and O coach, still a great game planner. If he is open to coming back as head coach and perhaps handing over more of the reins to Bill O'Brien or bringing back Josh McDaniels or something like that, allowing one of them to hire an actual offensive coaching staff and really just kind of focus on the big picture, and then defer or delegate some of the GM duties to, an Adam Peters or some of these other young gun GMs that can come in and really change around a franchise, that's the only way I see Belichick returning. But in all likelihood, and certainly Jay Glazer of Fox was reporting this, Belichick is gone, and it could happen as soon as tomorrow. Again, really tough to see it end this way. Tough to see Matthew Slater's final game potentially for the Patriots. But a lot of interesting questions. It's really open-ended going forward. So there's going to be a lot to talk about. Really a kind of a sloppy, snow-heavy game in Foxborough. Believe it or not, it was the first snow game at Gillette Stadium since like 2009, which was kind of surprising. But the Jets just had a much better ground game, and like I said, their punter played a little better than our punter. But there's a lot that's going to need to be addressed in the offseason. I'm not satisfied with Chad Ryland at kicker. Bailey Zappi certainly had his moments these last 5 or 6 weeks. I think he earned the backup role. There's a lot you could do there. Maybe he's added some value that you could trade him and then maybe keep Mac Jones as a backup. Or you trade Mac Jones, give him a fresh start somewhere, and have Zappi as the backup going forward. And then he backs up Kirk Cousins or Jaden Daniels or Drake May. It's hard to figure out what the best solution here is. Mike Vrabel won in Tennessee. He, I guess, has 2 years still left on his contract. So maybe Vrabel, if you want him to be your head coach, that might be something they have to trade for. But perhaps Tennessee's not satisfied for him. They fire him, and the Patriots can pick him up. The betting favorite right now is Gerard Mayo, if Belichick is gone, to be the head coach. Robert Kraft basically implied last offseason that Mayo was the heir apparent to Bill Belichick, but I think he was expecting Belichick to be with the team at least another season before Mayo ultimately takes the reins. He's 37 right now, will be 38 next season. Pretty young for a head coach. It's happened before. Sean McVay was young. We've seen this happen, but Gerard Mayo's, his entire history has been with the Patriots organization. So, he played there as a player, and he's been there as a basically the de facto defensive coordinator, but he hasn't been the play caller. There is still a lot of inexperience there. I think Mayo has everything you want. I mean, he commands the locker room well. He's a good game planner. He leads the team meetings, but it's hard to figure out how much of that is him, how much of that is Steve Belichick, who has been the defensive play caller. Kind of a bit of an introvert, but he does have a big impact on that defense. And what happens if Steve Belichick goes with Bill Belichick, whether it's to the Giants or the Chargers or the Commanders or the Panthers or one of these teams that could potentially pick up Bill Belichick or trade for him this offseason? A lot of questions, and all we can really do is speculate at this point. So I'll be back tomorrow morning, probably before there's any news, with a new Pats cast. To go break this down a little bit further on what we can expect between that meeting with Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft. And then perhaps later in the day or later in the week, or maybe it takes a little bit longer than that, we'll actually have a decision on is Belichick going to stay? And if so, is he giving up his general managing duties? And what's going to happen if he does go? There's a lot of great potential candidates at head coach. I mentioned Vrabel and Mayo. Maybe they go with an offensive mind like Ben Johnson, or a guy I really like. Obviously, he had a huge impact on Kansas City, which was felt when he left this past offseason, Eric Bieniemy. I would really like to see him get an interview as well if the Patriots do have a head coaching vacancy. So a lot of questions. Let me know in the comments what you think the best course of action is here for Robert Kraft. But at the end of the day, 17-3 loss, not the way you want to go out, but ultimately a good thing for the Patriots, as they will get that top 3 pick to select a potential future franchise quarterback, or maybe they have a shot at Marvin Harrison Jr., which would give them their first real top wide receiver 1 since really Randy Moss. I know we had Gronk, he was a tight end, but they really haven't had a real outside threat like that. And you pair him with Demario Douglas, who looks to be a real deal slot receiver, the next Jacoby Myers, Edelman, Wes Welker, Troy Brown type player. A lot going on there. Or maybe they're not satisfied. They trade back. get some more assets, draft a tackle, sign another quarterback, sign a receiver, do something there. But again, everything's open-ended. Let me know what you think the best course of action is, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.